Good evening, Africa. Good evening, Wachira Mutati and Toby Manova.
Good evening, Ali. How are you?
We are doing great this side. I don't know that side. How are you doing?
This side we are good. We thank God for the peace and everything that is happening here. It is okay. We want first of all to greet everybody who's watching us either live or who will watch us later. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're watching us from and when you'll be watching us. Today we are talking about beauty in African diversity in African Kona, and we want to understand the various communities that will be represented here. We want to compare and contrast the various different communities that will be represented by our panelists here. But even before we get to the show, Ali, here in Kenya we have had a very eventful week here. We have had the culmination of the campaigns. We have a general election this coming Tuesday. The temperatures are a bit high. We want to call for peace. We want to ask I want to ask my fellow Kenyans, please, let us keep peace. Let us maintain peace wherever you are. Preach peace, because these elections are not important as your life. Your life is more important than these elections. And we really want to urge for them to keep peace. And also, still this very week, we have also had one Ferdinand Omanyala, who is a Kenyan and an African, who has won the 100 meters Commonwealth Games. He became the top overall winner. And we really want to congratulate him and also just appreciate the fact that it has taken a lot of time for Kenyan to actually do that. So we want to appreciate that because he really did well. I don't know what is trending there in South Africa. What's happening in South Africa?
We'll start with Toby Malova. Mr. Malova, what's happening in our country, my man? I'll come after Toby Malova.
Good evening to everyone. I hope you are all okay. My name is Toby Kadishi Maloba. I am staying at Limpopo, Ramasha village. Tonight, as my fellow colleague already explained, we are going to discuss the topic of the beauty in diversity. Mainly, we'll be focusing on the African diversity spectrum.
So sure. But for now, we are looking at what is happening in South Africa now. Currently, what is happening?
We are focusing on. Okay, now we are talking about what is happening in South Africa.
Sure.
What can I?
The likes of your Zama, the likes of your corruption.
Okay. The thing which I recently came across is the judgment made by the Constitutional Court, on which they announced that they no longer allow they no longer allow foreigners to practice as legal practitioners in South Africa. So somehow that kind of judgment is very detrimental to our fellow Africans and so on. And yeah, we are looking forward towards the review of that judgment, because obviously on the Constitutional Court level, there is no appeal, but instead the only possible alternative to that judgment is review. So there are organizations which are joining hands to apply for the review of that judgment. Besides that, what else can I say is happening around our country? I cannot remember anything else.
Yeah, not a problem, Mr. Malova. Let me come in the case. I just want to emphasize that I was very shocked also when I was reading about this judgment that our fellow Africans or whoever coming from other countries, they will no longer be able, to practice as attorneys in this country. I was quite astonished by that. And also, what is happening in South Africa? Don't forget, Mr. Malova, this week it has been, a chaotic week where we have landed that in Pretoria, at Katlehong, our African brothers, the likes of those coming from Lesotho, those coming from Zambia, those coming from Zimbabwe, it has been said that they are part of those people who are into illegal mining, and they have arrested around about it's more than 50 of them. Those have been arrested, and the community have been in communication with the police that the police need to arrest them. And according to the news, the police, they tried their level best, but the community, they went out from their houses to make sure that they go and arrest them. And also, what is happening in South Africa, I'm aware that people need to know what is happening in terms of corruption because what the money laundering thing that is happening in South Africa will take our country into a grey list, which is going to make our country to be one of those countries which are not going to be able, to trade well with other countries. And also, we're looking at the inflation level. The inflation level is quite insane this side. Things are getting too expensive, and a lot of people are complaining. Looking on the social relief grant that are getting 350 rand, most are complaining, saying that that money is too small, so it can cover a lot of things. Yeah. Mr. Malova?
And we shouldn't forget the problem of Capitec Bank. At the moment, I've heard several people complaining about the service of Capitec Bank, saying their online transactions are no longer well functioning, their apps are no longer functioning, and so on. But luckily, just recently, Capitec managed to fix whatever problem it was facing. So yeah, we can resume with the main course of the event.
Wachira.
Thank you, guys. There's a lot that is happening in South Africa, yeah? Kenya,
Nice.
there's a lot that is happening also, but we also want to thank everybody who's watching us and everybody who has taken their time to subscribe and just listen to us. We really want to thank them. Today, as I said earlier, we want to talk about beauty in African diversity. And with us here, we were supposed to have two guests. One of our guests is having trouble logging in. I don't know if he'll be able to join us, but if he will, then well and good. But in the moment, we will proceed as it is. So we want to talk about the beauty in African diversity. And we want to talk about beauty in African diversity in a way of conversing about our communities. We want to compare, we want to contrast, and see the similarities and the divergence that are within our African communities that are represented here. And first of all, I'll let them, introduce yourself properly. Tell us the community that you are representing. Tell us where you are located, where your community is located, and anything that you want to tell us about your community.
Mr. Malova?
Okay, about the community, I'm going to touch on two communities. The first community will be the community of my origin, which is at Limpopo, Amasha. Then the second community is the community of Northwest, particularly Potchefstroom, whereby my university is located. To start with the former, I can say I am representing Sepedi community. I don't know how to put it. Is it actually?
Yeah, could be Sepedi or Sepedi.
Yeah, Sepedi or Sepedi community in full. Yeah, so in all, I can say Sepedi community is one of the about 4 ethnic groups in Limpopo, and actually in South Africa it is not really the biggest community. It comes after the communities such as Zulu and Xhosa. Yeah, the population of Sepedi community can be on the 4th or 5th level when coming to the quantity of the population. Then what else can I say is interesting about our community? Or about the Sepedi language to start with. The Sepedi language is a very beautiful language which is divided into several sub-languages. I don't know how to put them because the funny thing which happened recently, there was someone around our campus who was speaking Sepedi. By the virtue of him speaking Sepedi, I could tell her, no, like you are from Polokwane, like from how the people are, the accent, the type of Sepedi they're speaking, you can tell that they are from this particular place. So he was surprised, how can I tell he's from where? But I was like, nah, I'm able to tell, like from how you pronounce anything, like even with little things which may not be noticeable, such as, how did I notice? Because the guy was actually speaking English. For me to notice that you're speaking Sepedi in your home language and you're from Polokwane. He was saying Chofran. He was saying Chofran. Like the way he's pronouncing is like, let me try to remember how did he read it.
But don't be even when you're remembering that, let us. How do you people greet each other in that community? How do you say hello in that community?
Oh, to say hello, Bardumela.
And then what am I supposed to be responding?
Are.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
I think I should be doing some learning here. Ali, tell us about your community because, and
No,
you know,
yeah.
Ali, you have to tell us. You have to tell us about you because you are confusing my Kenyan audience. You know, Ali, mostly in Kenya are Muslim people. So, Ali, no, tell us about your community.
The community that I'm belonging to is the same community that Honorable Toby Manoba is coming from. We are coming from the same place, actually, so to say. We're from the same place. We fall within the Sepedi or the Sepedi community. So we share the same values. One thing that I would like to tell you about my community is that, you know, the Peri community actually has a belief system that is actually, I could say, is based on the spiritual weight. And this include the likes of ancestral veneration communication with the spiritual way that is happening through sacrifices and also songs. And some they also, do the dancing. And I can also add by saying that one can ask a question, one can ask a question that what are the Beri people known for? Let me tell you this. Importantly, we are well aware that in order for one to be able to know that here are Beris, you will see them very well with the pottery, house building and painting, woodworking, seeing them doing some drums. Most of them, they're artists, most of them, the Beri. They're also known for metal forking, the beading, the poetry. There are a lot of things that you can see them doing. Most of the Beris, we see them doing some of the drums. They're doing the likes of the Naka. There are a lot of things that you can notice as my brother. And also, one thing that I can tell you is that one can also ask a question that how do Beri celebrate their culture? Before I get to that, let me tell you about this. Looking on the dances that we do in Sepedi, we have what is called Kiba and we also have what is called the Naga. These two dances are our traditional dance. The Dinaka and also the Kiba are very much important into our community. Those are traditional dance which are performed on ceremonies, ritual occasions, which are also known as Meleko. A ceremony this side, in our culture, we call it Moleko, or you can call it Mudiro. That's our language how we use. And also one can ask a question that how do Bedi people celebrate their culture? Let me tell you this, to African brothers, those who are listening from different sides, how do we celebrate our culture? This is how we celebrate our culture. This ritual usually involves animal sacrifice or maybe, presenting of the beer by most of the key figure family members called Rahadi or Bomalomi. And some, they usually slaughter goats or cows when they need to communicate with their ancestors. While some use their slaves or what is called totwa, which is called the African beers. In Africa, in our culture, if you want to communicate with your ancestors, you need to buy what is called a slave, or our grandmothers, they can do what is called so that you wake up early in the morning, you go outside, you kneel down there, and then in the morning, before people wake up and go out, you go out there, you use the slave there, you pour the alcohol, and then you start to talk to say, yeah, my name is Ali. I got a new job, an interview. Please, my ancestors, my great grandmothers, please make sure that you watch me and you protect me along the way. You see, that's how we do things. And some they do slaughter their cows in order, for them things to go well. Last question that one can also ask to say that, what is the Sepedi traditional food? Let me tell you this. The traditional Pedi food consists of topi. Topi actually it's a meal which is made from a maize mixed with a fruit called lerotse. We also have what is called morojo warikopana. Morojo warikopana actually it's a spinach that is cooked and given a round shape, left to dry up in the sun. So what we do, we buy spinach, we cook it, and then we shape it in a circle shape, and then we put it on the sun so that it can get dry, so it can last for a long time. That's how we do things in my culture. I don't know what's
Yeah,
happening in Kenya.
Can Dobby really cook that food? Can he be able to prepare that food?
Yeah. I'm very good. I'm very good in most of the traditional food and so
Yeah.
on. But unfortunately, I prepare such stuffs after quite some time. But in all, I can prepare them. Because without eating those kind of things.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me just tell this person that I'm on the live.
Okay, as it does that, I can be introduced. I, on the other hand, I come from a community that is very dominant or known mostly in Kenya called the Kikuyu community, or other people can pronounce it Agikuyu community. We are located at mostly the central part of the country where Mount Kenya is also present. So it's called, and also have a very close relations with the other Mount Kenya communities, including the Meru, and the Mbere and the Aembu. I don't know if I'm. I think those are the communities that are located there. But here we have the culture is, for example, when you greet somebody, there are various greetings, but the most common one is Wemwega, or if you're greeting a number of people like both of you can say Morega, and then they can respond. There are various greetings. We have greetings like Wakea Maito, Wakea, and those are the kind of greetings that we have here. But here the Mount Kenya, the Agikuyu people, to be specific, are, I think, the majority people, the largest community in Kenya, and I think it's also one of the communities that have really lost their traditions. Many people have become modern these days, but history can also show us why that has happened. But also, I really wanted not to go into the scholarly things today. Dobby has said some good stuff, and also Ali has pointed at some really good stuff. But I also just wanted to ask you guys, in a nutshell, how is the naming system there? Because Ali has really run away from that question. I really want to know why it's called Ali.
No, let's start with Maloba. Dobby, you can go through.
What question is it?
Do you know the meaning of your name?
The meaning of
your name? What is the meaning of your name? Or how did you come to be named that way? How did it be Dobby Maloba? How did it come about?
Okay. In this sense, let me say my name is Kadishi.
Kadish.
Which is Kadishi, which is an African name. Somehow it refers to something to do with resilience. Yeah, it's somehow a very complex name, but like in short, I can say it entails resilience.
That's nice.
And they named me after my grandfather. So yeah, that is where my name comes from. And okay, on top of my answer, I have a question with regards to your culture there in Kenya. How is your traditional attire? Like, does it comprise of those Western fabrics? Because what I've noticed is that those Western people, when they came to Africa, they came with their fabrics on top of colonizing our minds. They even colonized our culture to the point that they convinced us that our culture should comprise of fabric, whereby it is practically impossible, because in the past, from the initial of human existence in Africa, it is very clear that in those days we didn't have any fabric. So how can it be possible that our culture comprised of fabric?
Yeah, as I've said, the Kikuyu community is one of the communities in Kenya that really got quote unquote civilized. I want to say quote unquote, and also modernized, because if we go in that direction, we'll be bringing in another topic of African philosophy. But just to answer your question, the traditional attire here is not, it's somehow modern, but trying to be made tradition to look or appear tradition, because the Kikuyu people are normally associated with a brown attire. Both the women and the men, they have a traditional color that is mostly brown, brown like the sand. So that is what much I can say about it. But you can see the people these days try and use the Western fabrics, and just because it is brown and it appears to be tradition, it appears so. But however, the traditional attires back then, the Africans used to put those. I don't know how they used to do it, but the history can show us that they used to also wear things that are being worn today, but not in this modern style, the modern trending way. But they still exist a traditional way of, dressing.
Yeah. If I can also ask a very quick question to you, Wachira, there in Kenya. I'm aware that, especially in South Africa, it happens in different ways. Let's say maybe one person passed away. The morning before they have to bury the person, you find that there's a group of family members. Those will be able to go. They call it body viewing. In our language, we call it wohloboga. That body viewing, you find that people have to go there and view the body. Just to check whether it's the person, the one that we know that we have to bury. What is happening that side? Because according to the sources that I have been reading, it looks like this thing is happening all over Africa. But in other African countries, I heard one saying that they're taking out the body, the dead body, they beat the body. Others they're saying that the wife needs to sleep with the dead body. Others saying that there are a lot of funny things that they do with the body. What is happening there, sir? Are you guys the one that one needs to sleep with the dead body, or you have to beat the dead body? What's happening?
Okay, only that's a very interesting question. Speaking for my community, to be specific, first of all, let me speak about the Kikuyu community, because Kenya has more than 42 tribes or 42 communities, more than. So I'm not sure if it's 45 or so up to now, because there are others that were added to the Kenyan communities. But for the Kikuyu people, especially when people lose a loved one, what happens is, in this modern day, a person will be taken to the morgue. The deceased will be taken to the morgue, and on that very day that they're going to bury him, they will go and pick the person early in the morning from the morgue. There's going to be a body viewing. The casket is just opened. Either they can open up to where the face can be seen, just to confirm that this is your person, and also to pay your last respect. And also, and then after that is done, after everybody has viewed the body at the morgue, they are going to close the casket, and that's it. They go to where the funeral procession will be being done, and then they'll bury him. However, the people you are talking about, or you have read about, are mostly the people from the western part of the country. They do not bury their loved one on that very day that they bring him out, or him or her out of the morgue. They can bring him a day early. They can bury him. For example, if they brought him today, they can bury him tomorrow, or they bring him 2 days before, according to their tradition, that deceased person has to maybe spend a last night, or their last times within their households, and just spend time with their loved one. But you see people go and mourn there. The body is there. You can be able to view it. That is mostly for the western communities that are there in Kenya. But mostly for the people who are around central, there's no much of things that happen when a person dies. There's no much, let me not say drama, but we have had the stories. We have seen the people saying that the hearses are not moving because the dead person did not want to be buried, or you people have not done whatever the dead person want to be done. It is happening in the western communities around here. So, but I really don't have proof of that. I cannot really stay with Dobby is a lawyer, and I don't want to be taken to court for not saying issues that are not correct. But it happens. We have seen that. Horses are not moving. People say, and it's very mysterious. They have to maybe talk to the dead body and tell him, just please, let us allow this to happen. And there are all sorts of traditions that happen around, especially death. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. What I'm going to mention can be a little bit out of the context we are talking about, but I just want to make a confirmation on something. I used to have a friend who is from Kenya on our campus. So one of the interesting things the person shared with me, but on which I'm not really convinced about, like I'm still curious about this part, that he says in Kenya, actually normally they don't wear jersey. Like the nature of their climate actually is not requiring them to wear a jersey, and they don't explore, and actually they don't have the winter season the same as us in South Africa. The person says in her university days here at Northwest University, it was actually her first time she buys a jersey. So what is your take on that?
Wow, that's really interesting. I might want to meet this person, because I have not heard of any community that really says people do not wear jersey. I think that is more of a religion thing, yeah. Because here in Kenya, we have all sorts of and manners of religion. For example, we have a denomination that tell their people wear this, and they are Christians. I'm not talking about Muslims. They are Christians who tell their congregation, you have to put on this, do not put on that. But I've really not heard about people being denied to wear a jersey in Kenya. I've not had any community refusing.
Okay, can I put it in this way? How is your climate that side? How is day-to-day weather? Like, do you have those seasonal changes whereby you experience summer, winter, spring, and so on?
No, not really, because Kenya is located at the equator almost divides Kenya into two. So we don't have those seasons like winter, summer. But there's some people who try and make it appear so, but it's not really that. We have the dry seasons, we have the rainy seasons where we have the long rains and the short rains. Especially like right now, we have just gotten out, or we are really coming out of the cold season, which is between July and the beginning of August. But we do not have that rapid change of climate like winter, like you people have there, and we really don't have that. It's some time of the year it really gets hot. Yeah, some time of the year it really gets cold, and sometimes it rains. Sometimes it's really dry. So yeah.
Or maybe the person was just somehow exaggerating that.
We don't know. Maybe we will call the person to the show one day and substantiate what he or she is saying.
In your presence, that.
But I really think it is more of a religious issue than a traditional issue. And if it is a traditional issue, I have not heard of that. Maybe it does exist, but I've really not heard of that. But you also see, for example, in our communities, for example, my community, the Kikuyu communities, we also have different sects. We also have different clans, yeah? For example, we have the Agikuyu, we have the Agikuyu, and all the clans of the Kikuyu people. So you find a certain clan follow certain rules that were laid there by their forefathers. For example, there are some clans which are not allowed to marry from the other clan, or there are some things that people who here say it's called mogabo, as in a person has been denied just because you come from this community. Maybe your forefather said, if you're coming from this family or you're coming from this clan, you cannot marry from this other clan, or maybe you cannot become a drunkard in my house, you cannot do this around this family, and if you do that, that amounts to a curse. So maybe it's such a situation where it is not maybe a community issue, but it is more so their own clan issue or their own family issue or a religious issue.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. The point is fully clarified.
Can I ask you a question very quick? Because before Mr. Maloba was asking the question, I tried to mention that in our community, in order for us to be able to communicate with our ancestors, we slaughter cows. We have to go with the toddler, like the the beer, the African beer that we prepare, and the snave that we used to communicate with our ancestors. Is it happening that side where people need to slaughter cows in order for them to communicate with their ancestors? Is it happening that side in Kenya?
Yes. It really has. For example, in my community, that tradition was somewhat. It faces a lot of contradiction, especially from the Christian people, and it has also it got into a point. It almost got extinct. But the past few years, we have seen it coming back. We call it the pouring of libation is there, especially from the elders. They do that. For example, here in my community, when you are praying. For the way you have really explained how you people do there, here we face the mountain. I've told you the community comes around Mount Kenya. So what they do in the morning, especially a man, those people who follow the tradition, they will wake up and they pray facing the mountain. The men will pray facing the mountain, and they put their hands like this, like facing the mountain, and they will say things like "Thy, Dada Yangai, Thy." They will, if it is celebrations, they will pour libations. They'll do all of that, and they will pray, doing all that. All the traditional things they will do. And our traditional beer is called Muratina. It has things like honey in it, which has the meaning. The reason why they put honey. The water that is made, to make the beer come about. There's a really deep philosophy, especially with that traditional beer of the Kikuyu people, where we have also the thing itself is called kiratina. That's why it's also being called muratina, and it happens today, and especially when people are taking dowries, when boys are coming out of the initiation period, for example, during the rites of passage, when they are after their circumcision. Men do that. They still do that up to date, and it's the tradition is still up to date.
Can I come in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard those interesting points you have mentioned, but I'm actually worried about African communities. I'm worried by the amount of effort they are putting into religion generally. I find it very unreasonable. They are putting in a very extreme amount of energy into a religion more than in any other thing. So I just want to hear from your side about how do you feel about this whole thing of religion practice in Africa? Because what I've noticed that the very same amount of effort which is being put into the religion in South Africa, it is somehow similar to the same amount they are putting in other parts of Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, going up there, Ghana, Morocco, and so on. We are on the uniform amount of effort into religion than on any other thing when coming to business, when coming to academic progress, and so on. We are somehow ignorant when coming to such important aspects of life, and we are prioritizing very wrong things. What is your take on that?
Yeah, from a personal point of view, I really wish that the Kenyan people and also the African people in general to really think about their tradition and really remember the culture that they were there by our forefathers. They were not stupid when they were coming with these traditions. They were not stupid. The cultures worked, and they still work up today. There's a reason why we do things that way. And I really don't want to bash the people who are focusing mainly on religion and they forget about their culture, because I always ask a person, are you first a Christian or are you first a Muslim or a Hindu before you're an African, or you first are an African before you are those other things? It's really sad that up to today that there are some people who have not opened their minds, they have not opened to see that the advent of this foreign religion coming to the continent. But you see, we cannot also blame them. Some of them really do not understand how religion and especially the foreign religion came to be here in Africa. Some of them really do not understand what was the means of these things being brought here to Africa. But it's also nice, we are seeing people who are really blending the two. They're putting it nicely. But I will really like to urge all Africans across the continent. They should really embrace their culture. They should try and remember what their culture is and the importance that comes with their culture. Because it's really sad. It's really sad when you find a child who has been named 2 English or 3 English names. They don't even know their community. They cannot even greet you in their language. He or she does not know their language. And you see, when they hear you speaking your local language, they think you're backward. They think you're stupid. They think, we are modernized. They think they are modernized because they have these names. They think they are civilized. They think they are better people. Yeah. This is the same mentality that was brought by the white person. And it is so sad to see that many Africans are not opening their eyes. But you see, there is hope because channels like this and forums like this exist, so that those people who are ignorant, they can be able to know, and they can also to open their eyes. Because at the end of the day, they say that ignorance is not defense. You lawyers say that ignorance, you cannot defend yourself with ignorance.
Yeah, it should somehow amount to negligence. It cannot be used as a defense mechanism.
Yeah, but to add on that, it is also happening in South Africa, different cultures. You'll be surprised. Somebody coming from the Sepedi or the Sesotho or Botswana community, the person will be wearing the Indian clothes. I don't know whether it's a fashion or what. You see people during the Heritage Day, they are wearing those Indian clothes. Then you'll be shocked. These people, in order for them to wear, the Aperis or Tswanas or whatsoever clothes, they are wearing other people's clothes. And it's happening to most of the people where you find that they're wearing the Zulu tribal clothes and all these things. It's something that it's amazing. And I was shocked when I have learned that one of my friends, that she's based in Cape Town, she's not able to speak Sepedi. She cannot bolela Sepedi at all. What happens is that currently they hired someone to lecture her, to tutor her, in order for her to be able to speak Sepedi. Now, I asked, how possible is it? They're saying that she spent a lot of time at a private school and she was not around here, which is a very shocking one. She can't even say Ria Leboga. That is something that shows that we are not taking our culture into account.
I think, Ali, what we can say on that, some things let us not blame the children on the sins of their fathers, because some of these issues, if we want to blame anybody, we will have to blame the parents who are raising these children. Because you see, some of them were moved to, for example, here in Kenya, some people who are from different parts of the country moved to various parts of the country, and where they move, you cannot train or teach your child to speak in your own language or your own dialect. So what they do, you have to learn Kiswahili first, and so that you can also come and learn your language later, if you may or if you wish. But you see, now the problem is when that happens, and you as an individual, you find out that I was not able to be born within our people. And now I have to learn this national language, which is Kiswahili, and also the English language. The problem is now they do not revert. They do not want even they don't even wonder about their community. I think that is where we can blame the person as an individual. But in the state where you are not able to control how you came to know the language, or you did not know the language, we should be blaming the parents, because these parents are the people who are supposed to be teaching the children. The generation, the cultures and the tradition are supposed to move from this tradition to the next from this generation to the next generation through the parents.
You are absolutely right, because what I've noticed so far, for their children to only know the Western languages without knowing their indigenous ones, they perceive that as some kind of privilege, or as a sense of portraying them as more developed people or more privileged ones among everyone in the community and so on, which is not. Although it is necessary for us to fully understand English and sharpen its fluency, but we shouldn't learn English on the account of forgetting our native language.
And Dobby, before I forget, allow me to ask you guys a question. because I want to understand the rites of passage in your specific communities there in South Africa. Here in Kenya, we have, for example, the boys, the circumcision for the initiation, where we'll mark your transition from childhood to adulthood. In the traditional times, it used to be done even to girls, but with the advent of new knowledge and westernization, FGM is illegal in Kenya today. But the boys are still circumcised, and especially that is a very special time, I think, across all communities, and even especially here in Kenya, especially in the western parts of Kenya, they still do it traditionally, where people go to the riverside and the boys are circumcised, the women sing, people enjoy, they slaughter cows and all manner of things that they can be able to do. Here in Kenya, we still do it, even this community, like the Kikuyu people who think they are so civilized or so modernized, the boys are still circumcised up to date. I really just want to understand from that point, do those things still exist? How are they doing way before the foreigners came, and how do you people do it today?
Malova, can you come in first?
Okay, I can come in. In South Africa, such practices are still going on, but they no longer take place in the high number as they used to happen back in the past. Maybe let me say they used to happen 15 years back. Now they are gradually getting reduced due to the growth of the Western circumcision method, because one of the reasons why this thing of traditional circumcision, which takes place among the Black communities, is because unfortunately most of those practices go wrong, to the point that they result in death of most young people within the country and so on. As it goes on, people are getting discouraged to consider such practices through the traditional way. Alternatively, they resort to the medical practice.
Yeah. That's what happens. Even for example, in my community, many people have reverted to do it in a modern way. So people go to hospital, especially the boys will go to the hospital and they do it. They'll be circumcised in the hospital.
Do you think it is necessary for this practice to take place through the traditional manner?
Before we get to that, can I add to what Malamo was saying before? Before we take on the question, when we are talking about these things of traditional schools, this side we call it Koma. What do you guys call it in Kenya?
Here in my community, they can call it Kurua. Yeah, and the other communities call it various names. That the exact circumcision. Yeah.
This side, when they graduate, usually the guys, they go to the mountains, and the ladies, there's a specific place for them. When they graduate, once they're done, it differs with cultures. In our Sotho or Pedi or Tswana, once the guys, they're going to graduate, they have to give them something like they call it litoki, sort of a polish. Could be red, so to say. They have to polish them, and then they'll be carrying a stick, which is called the high, that shows that they're graduating. And the ladies, they also polish them, and they have clothes that they're wearing. This side, we wear, the guys, they wear what is called lefeto.
Ali, sorry, I think there is a network issue because you are really breaking off.
All right, I'm not sure if you can hear me now. I don't know if you can hear me now, because on my side, me and Dobby are okay. I think it's at your side.
Yeah, we can hear each other this side.
Yeah. So yeah, you let me see. I think Wachira was having network issues. I was still saying that this side in South Africa, how things are going through. When they graduate, the guys, they will wear what is called the khetwa, and the ladies, they will wear what is called what did they call it, Dolly? Remind me. The ladies, they wear something. What did they call it?
We went deeper.
Yes, they call it in taper. The ladies, they'll be wearing that. Malawa, you're asking a question lately on. I see that my brother is still going to connect. You're asking a question that is it still important to do what?
Yeah, is it still important for us to continue with this traditional way of circumcision, or maybe we should fully alternate to the Western medical circumcision method? What do you think on that? Do you think it is still necessary for us to continue with the traditional way of circumcision? Is it still necessary?
You know, on that question from my side, I felt like it's not necessary for us to continue with that old way, in terms of circumcision. But I'm very worried when I have learned that there was a guy who was at the age of about 48. Apparently, this guy, when he got the age around 48, 49 there, he started to change, whereby they thought that he was changing his mind, like he was losing his mind. Then they thought this guy is sick, he was mad. They took the guy to the doctors all over the place. Apparently, they found that no, this guy is fine, everything is fine. Now, they took this guy to one of the powerful sangomas. They told them that, look, the problem is one with this guy. You named this guy the name of someone who actually went to the circumcision school, traditionally so. This guy just only went to the doctors. That's why he's losing his mind. Allow this guy to go back to the mountains so they can come back being fine. They took this guy at the age around 49, 48 to the mountains. When after graduating, automatically, the guy was fine. That's why it confuses me to say that I believe that it's important because it was proven that if they name you after your ancestors, whoever, you need to follow their way. If you don't follow their way, it's going to be a problem. Yes, it's important. I believe it's important. I don't know what Wachira's side.
Earlier, I do not really want to get into that conversation because that is African philosophy sort of a conversation, and it really will take us to another direction. But I want to answer Dobby in this manner. As I said earlier, our forefathers are not stupid. They came with these traditions and cultures for a reason, because they solved certain issues. When I was studying African philosophy, I remember we were talking about a certain father who was called Father Placide Temples, who went to the Baluba people who are found in Zaire or modern-day Congo. And he did a lot of research after he thought that he has converted the people. Whenever an issue arose, the people went back to their traditional ways and try and solve the issues in a traditional way, and it worked. So the question was now what made him wonder, how could this be possible? Why are these traditional things working and not the modern way? So let me not revert to that, but I think we should find another day we really dive into that, yeah?
Okay, yeah, I get your opinions, but my view on this one, I think it is no longer necessary. Neither do we still have to continue with the traditional way of circumcision, no matter what the circumstance. This is based on the following factors. In the past, for the traditional way of circumcision to be introduced, it was because in the rural places of Africa, the Western medical facilities were not easily accessible due to funds and so on. They were not affordable at all. So at the present days, everything is accessible and most of us can afford access to the Western medical service. So in a way of us establishing decolonization, we don't have to establish decolonization in literally all our aspects of life. We only have to be choosy. We have to apply the Western ways of doing things where they benefit us and where we can tell that the Western way of doing it is obviously more great or more convenient than the traditional way of doing things. At the end of the day, our main goal as human beings is to advance our lives, practice things in a way that may be more convenient than any other way. It is not about necessarily a culture or tradition and so on. If, for example, we realize that the African way of doing 1, 2, 3 thing is very inconvenient. It results with a lot of disadvantages or a lot of side effects. So why do we not just adopt the Western way of doing that particular thing, since it is more advanced than the method you already have? So the whole point of trying to establish is that in the process of us Africans establishing decolonialization, we have to focus on decolonizing only the aspects which are necessary. If it is not necessary, let us just continue with the Western way of doing that.
Don't be okay. Don't be. You know what? Allow me to cut you short there, because I somewhat, because of also in the interest of time, I know this can really get a bit hot. You know, I somewhat agree with you. There's some aspect that I agree with you 100%. That's why I say the good tradition and the cultures, the African cultures, let us stick with them. But the things that do not benefit us today, we can do away with them. For example, let me make it clear, because people might have understood me there, and I don't want anybody to come and bash me later. I do not agree with issues like FGM. You know, it's called the female genital mutilation. I don't agree with that. Yet it used to happen back in our community. You know, women were being circumcised. I do not agree with that. What I think is we should keep the tradition, especially the traditions that are important and they have reasons to. We should stick with them. But those that are somewhat, you know, we can call them backward, we can just do away with them. And I've given a really good example of the FGM. Ali, before you come through, just allow me to say this, or to mention a few of my Kenyan people here sending in their comments. I know if I do not mention them, they're going to really bash me also. So let me just I can see their comments coming in. Where I'm seeing Joan Samo, she's saying premium gang. We am seeing Ndongo Jerry, she's saying this is an interesting topic and it is great. I'm also seeing Juliet Wangeshi, she's saying great content, keep it up. I'm seeing Wycliffe Mageto. Yeah, he has sent a thumb. You know, I don't know. I should really clarify. Does he want to knock us? But this is the way of, you know, in Kenya we say gota or gumimbwegze. There's something of that, you know. I want also to mention my friend who has really made me mention his name. Is called Santos Luangu. He said, if you do not mention me, I'm going to deal with you later. I'm also seeing Ian Ngudi. He's seeing Kenyans in the house and he's loving the conversation. And he's saying, true on the tradition, the forefathers were superly strict. I'm also seeing Maura Steven, you know, send this. I don't know if you can see that. And also seeing Juliet Minor, she's saying amazing content. Waweru Mbatia saying she's following. And Brandon Minor, she's saying great. So, you know, I really want to appreciate these people for tuning in and, you know, sending in their comments and just listening into what you're saying.
All right, what an interesting show. Very quickly, we left with a few minutes. I just very quickly want to start with from the side of Toby Maloba. Then I'm going to go back to Wachira. Maloba, in a minute, how do you wrap up the show, the conclusion?
I can say, let me start by thanking you, Mr. Ali, for a very great platform. Mr. Wachira Butati, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name perfect. Is it correct?
It is okay. I will take that for now. But you know, in future we will have to sharpen it a bit.
Yeah, and the viewers, I thank you so much for your time. It was a very great experience, and I have learned a lot of what I had no idea about is happening in Africa and so on. I'm hoping to engage further on similar topics in future. In all, I can say what I've realized is that many African communities are almost the same. We're doing the same things. The differences are just there, and we're practicing almost similar, the same things. Yeah, it was a very exciting experience to take part in this platform. Thank you so much.
All right, Wachira, very quickly, in a minute.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Ali. You know, I have a lot of things to say about Africa, and that is one of the reasons that we brought African Kona. But you have all seen, and as Dobby has put it, we cannot be able to really talk about everything about our cultures and Africa in one sitting and, you know, in just an hour. So therefore, we'll really ask our audience to keep on watching. We'll be focusing on other issues in the near future. And I just really want to tell and end the show with this quote. One of my favorite quotes from an African poet who's called Muhammad Al Faituri, who's a Somali poet. And he says, and he poses a question to the Africans, and he says, Africans, why have thou not realized thy potential? When Africans, we will realize our potential, and it begins from our cultures. When you know yourself, you identify yourself as who you are, then you will start realizing your potential, and things are going to turn a bit different. So I want to end it at that, and thank everybody for joining in, and also thank Dobby for coming in. You know, he's always there when we call him. He's there. You know, he's very busy. Our audience should know he's very busy. He's a lawyer coming up, and I'm sure he'll be able to defend us in the future when people take us to court for saying certain issues. But I also thank Ali very much for conducting the show. God bless. It's been nice.
All right. I would like to take this time, and also I would like to acknowledge the presence of La Center Psychology Services. They're saying that the Sepedi in the house, which means that they're saying that the Sepedi community is in the house. They are listening. Thank you so much. We'll also like to thank and acknowledge the presence of Josomo, Dugunjera, Juliet Wachingi, Cynthia Karumu. Other one is Mafete, Nguti. Other one is also Stephen. Oh, the surname are quite difficult. Juliet Maina.
Ali, please don't let me do justice to the African Kenyan names. You know, you're butchering the Kenyan names. But it is Cynthia Karome, it is Nguthi, but we'll take that for now.
All right, no, not a problem. All right, Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for taking your time and coming and join the show. This is African Kona, one of the best corners ever in Africa, where we make sure that we appetize you about African matters. I see a lot of people, they have the appetite, they're saying that keep on adding the hours. Thank you so much, the African people, for joining to the show. This is Go Africa. Go Africa. Go Africa. Go Africa. Go Africa. Go Africa. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.